Hi everyone, this is William from the Headphone Experience, and I'm here tonight with my full review of the Kennerton Vali. This is the new version of the Vali. These are made by Kennerton Audio Equipment, and they are out of St. Petersburg, Russia. And the current price on this headphone with this type of wood, this is maple, I believe, and the price would be 959 American dollars. This is a full-size, over-the-ear, open-back headphone. It uses a 50mm dynamic driver. The impedance is 32 ohms. The sensitivity is 100 decibels at 1 milliwatt. Kennerton claims a weight of 490 grams on this headphone. My kitchen scale is coming in a little bit heavier at 520. That would be including the ear pads, but not the cable. This headphone uses a 3.5mm connection at both ear cups and comes with a cable that is about 2 meters long and nice material. It's soft and flexible. Like I said, it uses 3.5mm connections at the headphone end, and it comes with a standard 6.3mm connection at the amp end. This headphone, like I said, this one is maple, and this is a solid wood. This is not a veneer. The ear pads and the head strap or the headband are made of real lambskin leather, very soft, nice thick ear pads, and they are tapered. They're thicker in the back than in the front. And this headphone comes with a very nice carrying case. Another reviewer said that it was real leather. I'm really not sure. Honestly, I don't think it is. I'll try to check with Kennerton and find out. But anyway, even if it isn't real leather, it's a very nice carrying case. The headphones slip in and out very easy. It comes with a carry strap, and this headphone comes with an adapter from 6.3mm down to 3.5mm. The headband on these is self-adjusting, and that's one of the three primary differences between this and the original Vali. In fact, I have an original Vali here I can show you, and like I said, this has a self-adjusting head strap, and the ear cups swivel in this direction. There's a little bit of flex in this direction, where the original Vali used a completely different setup with a aluminum yoke, a screw type adjustment that adjusted your height, and it also rotated to adjust your front to back pressure. I actually like this quite a bit, but this works real well if you're not sharing the headphone. Once you get it set up, it never moves, and it's great for one person. But if you are sharing the headphone, the self-adjusting head strap is a lot nicer, and it is a little bit lighter. I believe this headphone comes in about 15 grams heavier. Another difference is the ear cups on the new Vali are quite a bit larger. I believe these on the original Vali are about 95mm in diameter, and the ear cups on the new Vali, try to get these lined up so you can see the difference, are 105mm, so they're a little bit larger. And the other difference would be that the original Vali used a 4-pin mini XLR connection, where the new uses the 3.5mm. Another big difference is because of the larger ear cups, the larger ear pads, a little bit lighter, and the self-adjusting head strap, I do have to say that the new Vali is quite a bit more comfortable. I never really had an issue with the old Vali, but other than the clamping force was a little bit excessive, I thought. But they never bothered me. I would wear them for quite a while, and but the new ones are very comfortable headphone. I wanted to get into the sound of these, and the first thing I would say concerning the sound of this headphone, I would describe the tone balance as being a little on the warm side of neutral. And I would also say that they have a little bit of bass emphasis. I would say maybe about 3 to 5 decibels, and that kind of depends on how you wear these on your head. I've had these about 6 weeks now and had some time to experiment, time to listen to different music and all that. And something that I have noticed is that if I wear these further forward where the back of my ears are touching the ear cups, I have less bass than I do if I push them back and let the front of my ears touch the ear pads. I probably have about 2 decibels more bass. And I think I pointed out in my first video that these had a little bit less bass than the original Vali. And that kind of depends, like I said, how I'm wearing them. If I wear these further back where my ears are touching the front, they're very close in the, in the bass as far as the amount of bass compared to the original Vali. So, I that's something I just, picked up on over time. I didn't realize that at first, and I know I did say they had less bass than the original Vali, and I will get into that a little bit because it is a little bit different. There are some pretty significant differences in the sound of these from the original Vali. So I guess where I'll start, and this kind of applies to both of the Valis, the original and this one, is they both have good extension in the bass. They both go down into the sub bass pretty well, but on the top end, they both roll off a little bit in the upper treble. Very good lower treble and mid treble. They have good sparkle, cymbals sound great and all that, but I have noticed that they have a slight roll off in the upper treble. So, but a lot of people don't like bright headphones. I would say compared to say most of the Hi-Fi Man headphones, that a lot of people complain about them being a little bright. And if you're one of those people that think like the Hi-Fi Man Sandara or like HE560, HE500, if you thought any of those were a little on the bright side, these are probably going to be just about right for you because like I said, the upper treble is rolled off just a little bit. The mids, well, let's talk about the bass first. The bass, I would say, depending on the positioning on your head, probably has about 3 to 5 decibels of emphasis. So I'd say these are a little bit on the bassy side of neutral. The bass has good weight, it's solid, it's tight, it's not boomy. And I'm hearing quite a bit of texture and detail in the bass. And I would say the only other headphone that I've heard that can really compete in the bass would be the original Vali. I just love the bass on the original Vali, and this is very close. Maybe just a slight bit more texture in the bass on the original Vali, but like I said, they're real close. But good, very good detail in the bass on this headphone. The mids are similar to the original Vali. They're thick, they're rich, never sound thin at all. But the one difference I have noticed between this and comparing back and forth to the original Vali is that the vocals on the original Vali are more forward, where the vocals sit back a little bit. They're further back on the stage, a little less emphasis, and this would be both male and female vocals. So, little bit of difference. I mean, the tone balance in the mid-range and the sound of it is kind of the same on both headphones, but it's just the original Vali, the vocals are a little bit more up front, kind of right in your face, where these are set back a little bit, but that does give a little bit more depth to the soundstage, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. The treble, I would say, is clean and detailed through the lower treble and mid treble, and like I said, it's got pretty good sparkle, just a little bit of roll off in the upper treble, but that's not always a bad thing. I mean, For some people, that's ideal. Detail, I was a little bit concerned at first. When I first started listening to this, I thought it was lacking a little bit of detail in the mid-range compared to the original Valley. And I did want to talk about that a little bit because the idea of burn-in, and I know a lot of people don't agree with that at all. I mean, a lot of people say headphones do not burn in, they do not change their sound, that it's basically your ears and your brain making adjustments and accommodating for the sound, and it's the listener that changes, not the headphone. And I understand that agreement, and I know it's, some people have done tests trying to measure to see if there is a difference, but my opinion is the original Valley. When I first got it, I thought the mid sounded slightly veiled, and over time it seems like they really cleared up and the detail increased in the mids. And I'm not basing that on memory, I'm basing it on comparing it to other headphones, because when I first got the original Valley, I compared it to a couple of Hi-Fi Man headphones and thought it lacked a little bit of detail in the mid-range. And then, now like a year later, with hundreds of hours of listening time and on the original Valley, I can go back and compare it to the Hi-Fi Man headphones again, and it doesn't seem to be lacking that mid-range detail. So it really did seem that, over time, that the detail in the mid-range did pick up a little bit, and like I said, it could be that my mind adjusted to it, but it just seemed, comparing it to the other headphones, it did. Okay, this headphone seems to lack a little bit of detail in the mid-range compared to the original Valley, but that one has several hundred hours on it. This one, maybe has 20 hours on it. So I don't know if it's going to change or not. But my initial impression of this seeming to lack a little bit of detail in the mid-range, now that I've got more time on it, I'm not really thinking that's the case. What I've noticed, compared to the original Valley, the mid-range and especially vocals just seem to sit back a little bit further. A little less emphasis on the vocals, so now that I listen to it more, I don't really think it's lacking detail. I just think that the mid-range is a little bit more laid back and not emphasized as much, and that's just kind of creating the illusion of a little less detail than the original Valley. So, to be honest with, I spend more time. I mean, the detail seems good. It just seems a little bit further back on the stage, a few feet further back. So, no complaints there. The detail through the bass is very good. There's a lot of texture, and the detail in the treble is very good. Very clear cymbals, bells, chimes, everything very clear on them. So, my only issue with the detail then would just be because the mid-range, the vocals are set back a little bit further away, it just sounds a little bit less detailed to me. But it gives it kind of a relaxed, easygoing sound where it's not in your face and, never comes across harsh even if the recording's not that good. So I'll talk about that in a minute. The Soundstage is very large on this headphone. It's definitely wider and deeper than the original Valley, and I'm not sure why that is. The ear cups are a little bigger, but the grills are the same, and the ear pads are a little larger. I don't know if any of those are making the difference, but for some reason, the Soundstage is definitely wider on these. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind these have a wider Soundstage. I listened to the original Valley, and most of the sounds are kind of in here, where these are just out further and wider. And because of the vocals being set back a little bit, it seems to give these more depth to the Soundstage also than the original Valley. The imaging on these is good. I wouldn't call it pinpoint or extremely precise, but I had some, I had a listening experience the other night, and it kind of changed my thinking on this. I mean, I always thought that the more precise the imaging, the more pinpoint the location of each sound was, that was always a good thing. But I was comparing this headphone directly to the Kennerton Roar. Okay, the Roar, if you don't know, is Kennerton's flagship headphone. It's about $3,400. The Roar is very, very detailed, very, it's almost analytical. It has a very large three-dimensional soundstage, and the imaging is absolutely pinpoint precise on the Roar. Well, I was comparing the two back and forth. I was comparing the Vali to the Roar, and I was listening to Fleetwood Mac at the time. I think it was a Greatest Hits album. Had songs like, what did it have? Gypsy and Rihanna. What else? No, I can't think of it. Anyway, I was listening to Fleetwood Mac, and for some reason, I actually preferred the sound on the Vali to the Roar. Okay, first thing is that this isn't, this is recordings from the 70s, and they're not the best recordings in the world. Okay, the Roar, being hyper detailed, was bringing out and revealing a little bit of background hiss in the recording, which this headphone didn't. This headphone is definitely more forgiving of less than perfect recordings. But there was something more. There was some reason that I was preferring to listen to Fleetwood Mac on this headphone than on the Roar. And one thing is this headphone does have a little more bass. And the Roar, I currently have the ECL O2 ear pads on it, which gives it about 3 decibels more bass than the original ear pads do. But still, this headphone still has a little bit more bass than the Roar, even with the alternate ear pads. So the little bit more bass did give a little more weight to the sound. And, I think that was part of why I was enjoying it more. But the more I listened to, I realized there was something else. And it took me a while to put it together. And it might be a little bit hard for me to explain. But basically what I think was going on was that both headphones have a very large soundstage. Okay, the Roar, the imaging is super precise. So each instrument has a precise location, and I can picture in my mind exactly where each instrument's coming from. Okay, the Vali, the imaging is a little bit less precise, which I thought was kind of a bad thing. But in this case, it actually turned out to be a good thing, because what I noticed, excuse me a second. Oh, got a new water cup for my videos. This one doesn't make noise like the plastic one did. Anyway, what I noticed was with the Roar, each instrument was at a pinpoint location in space, but I felt like there was a lot of empty space in between. So I'd hear an instrument here, there, whatever, but it just seemed like a lot of black empty space in between. Okay, with the Vali, each instrument was a little less precise, the location, a little more vague, but they filled up bigger areas, so I didn't feel like there was those big gaps between the music. I felt more like I was surrounded by the music. And it gave me kind of a more, just enveloped in the music, more surrounded by the music feeling. I felt more like I was, at the center of the music, and it was just completely around me, coming from every direction, where with the Roar, I just felt like the music was just kind of coming from some empty spaces, out in space. And it was just kind of a more enjoyable feeling of just feeling like I was completely surrounded by the music, more than just hearing it coming from pinpoint locations. And I'd always thought, the pinpoint imaging was, that was just better. But in this case, I kind of found the little less, accuracy to the imaging. I actually found it more enjoyable. The dynamics on this headphone, they're decent, but they're definitely, the original Vali is probably the most dynamic headphone I've heard. Just very punchy, very hard-hitting bass. And the new Vali, it's still got good, the dynamics are still good, but it just doesn't have that punch and slam that the original did. Once again, it may be the different ear pads, it might be the larger ear cups, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either. A super dynamic headphone can become a little fatiguing after a while, and this is just a very mellow, laid back, just very easygoing. I mean, this is just a headphone that I can listen to forever without any kind of listening fatigue. It's just smooth, it's liquid sounding, and just nothing harsh about it. No harshness in the treble. It's not analytical where it's going to bring out, the background noise of the studio in a recording. I mean, it's just, a lot more forgiving, and that's the really strong point of this headphone, is I can listen to everything I own. I've got maybe, I don't know, 400 or 500 CDs, and I have not yet found a CD that I don't enjoy listening to with this, because, I mean, I take a headphone, a super detailed headphone, where that's almost analytical, is going to bring out background hiss if it's in the recording. If there's harshness in the treble, you're going to hear it. If there's any breakup, if, Sarah McLachlan, the CD Stumbling or Fumbling Towards Ecstasy, whatever it is, a couple of the songs with a detailed headphone like the Roar, I can hear some pretty significant breakup in her voice in a couple of the recordings that, almost becomes annoying. And I think they just, over-recorded. I think the recording levels might have been a little bit too high. Where a headphone like this is a lot more forgiving, and I don't hear that. It's just, like I said, I mean, you're not going to get, this isn't the last word in detail, but in 95% of the music I've listened to, these are able to bring out every bit of detail in the recording without bringing out background hiss and things like that. So basically, I mean, this is a headphone that I can listen to my entire collection, where an analytical headphone, you end up where you only listen to the 10% of your recordings that are recorded the best, and you stop listening to the stuff that, just isn't recorded well. So, I mean, this is a headphone you're going to listen to everything you have. And, I mean, your bad recording, or not bad, but, some that wasn't recorded that well, some older music, it's just going to sound probably the best you've ever heard. And, so what I found out, for a long time I've said that my favorite headphone for both rock and electronic music was the original Vali, and this headphone's right up there. I mean, that's what this is ideal for, in my opinion. The little bit of emphasis in the bass, the slight roll off in the upper treble, it just makes this perfect for rock music. Rock and electronic, dance music, that type of thing. Just excellent for those. And I listen to quite a few different bands. I mean, I listen to everything from some electronic, like The Cure, Depeche Mode. I listen to some Nine Inch Nails, things like that. Then I listen to quite a bit of rock. I listen to some AC/DC from the Back in Black album. I listen to some Led Zeppelin. I listened to some, what else? Some Leonard Skinner, Freebird, live, that like 14-minute version. Sounded as good as I've ever heard it with this headphone. What else? I listened to some Metallica from the Black album, for Unforgiven, and, what's the other song? Can't think of it right now. Anyway, just sounded incredible. The bass was solid, it was hard hitting, it was tight. The detail was good. Like I said, this is just an ideal headphone for rock and electronic type music. So basically what it comes down to, I would describe this as a laid back, very non-fatiguing, nothing ever harsh comes out of this headphone, forgiving of less than perfect recordings. You can listen to your entire collection on this headphone, and a headphone that you can put on and listen to for hours, not only because of the physical comfort of it, it feels good on my head, the ear pads are, very soft, high quality, but the music is, like I said, just a little bit laid back and non-fatiguing, and I can listen to these for hours without listening fatigue. So do I recommend this headphone? I would say definitely. If you want something that's a little laid back and easy going, if you're looking for something with a little bit of bass emphasis that's going to be great for rock and electronic, I would say this is a perfect headphone. If you're looking for something hyper detailed, that it's going to bring out a little more detail in acoustic, maybe jazz, orchestral music, you might want to take a look at the Kennerton Odin or the Thror. Both of those are very, very super detailed, and we'll pull out all that detail, but to be honest, the Thror isn't as much fun listening to bass and electronics. So so it depends what you're looking for, but yeah, I definitely recommend this headphone. Very very comfortable, very easy to listen to, and and pretty easy to drive too. Like I said, 100 milliwatts or 100 decibels at 1 milliwatt should make this easy enough to drive with most portables. So yeah, I very much recommend this headphone. So I did want to mention, I've done some comparing back and forth between this and the original Vali. So I'm actually thinking of maybe doing a comparison, kind of a shootout between the two, because there's some significant differences between the two, but I really haven't made up my mind which I prefer. I still really like the original Vali. There's some things about this that I definitely like better, but there's a few things I kind of like better about the original. So I'm thinking my next video may be a shootout between the two. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Once again, this is William from the Headphone Experience. If this video helped you, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you're all welcome to join us over at the Headphone Experience on Facebook. Thank you very much for watching my video.